So, good morning or good night, depending on where you are, and welcome to another interview of the Shield Doing a Couch. And today I'm joined by Zeke Sky. And Zeke Sky, he's a multi-instrumentalist, guitar player, singer, and he's gonna have his label debut dropping this Friday. And we're all here to talk about it. So, first of all, the album is gonna be out with Atomic Fire Records, and it's gonna be called Intergalactic Demon King. And here we have Zeke Sky with us. So, Zeke, how are you today?
I'm great. It's great to be here with you, Hector.
Nice. Let me tell you, I like that title of the album. It
I'm
like it.
glad. It wasn't the type of title that you would find in maybe the pop mainstream side of things. I feel like I maybe titled it the way I did to get pretty specific about what was inside.
Oh yeah, no. I was listening to the album, and it's heavy metal, but I found that there was like power metal, but there was like more harder metal in it, and especially the vocals, some power metal in it, but like also a lot of like fast, super fast technical riffing on that album. So Six Guy, I was reading about you. So you first started in 2018, I think, doing covers on YouTube, right?
I think there was maybe one cover, but the first thing that came out was in 20, it was actually really late 2017, now that I'm really thinking about it, but there was a self-recorded kind of live album almost thing, and there was a music video that was out in 2018. And when the band really started, I really wanted to have a band. Like
Mhm.
I played a lot of guitar and I really wanted to have a band, but at the time that I started the band, I was still writing the music. I was still writing a bunch of music. Um, so at the first, like, maybe just tryout gigs, they weren't like big gigs or anything like that. There was a handful where we played covers, and then the first time we did my music was when we opened for King's X. And that was a different generation of music. That was a slightly different sound. But yeah.
King Sex, a super known band. I know they released an album this year, and they've always had a great career. So how was the experience of opening for them? I know they're kind of like a prog rock alternative band. How was that experience?
It was cool. Their audience was obviously very supportive. Listen, they've been around a very long time. I think they've been around, got to be almost 40 years with King's X. The
Since the
crowd
80s,
there
yeah.
was, yeah, the crowd there was very familiar with their music. And Doug Pinnick, the bass player, I've heard rumors of his age. I almost couldn't believe it, but I heard he was in his, getting up into his late 70s, and he did a fantastic job and sang. And I watched their sound check, and nothing seemed laborious about it. It was definitely a very interesting night. It was our first real show.
Nice. So, walk through the timeline of Six Guy. How did you get the deal with the Atomic Records? How did that, just so people can know more about the band?
Sure, yeah. So the band is my solo project. I write everything for the band, and I've managed before Atomic Fire Records came in, and Marcus Stager came in. I managed all of the affairs of the band, and around last year at this time, I was recording Intergalactic Demon King, and my intent at that time was I didn't really think past making a record. I just really wanted to make the best record I possibly could make. And I was in a position to do it because, I had saved a lot of time and some money and energy and had written all these songs. And, it was in the middle of COVID. I had some, just really wanted to get it out at that time. So I did the record, and Marcus Stager, who is the original founder of Nuclear Blast, who is now the founder of Atomic Fire Records, he's really got quite a name in the European heavy metal world, and beyond. I sent him a copy of it. He really liked it, and within the space of 48 hours, he had basically told me that he wanted to sign me up for a record deal. And I knew enough about him that I thought it was a good idea, but it's a very long process, and it was weeks before I had a contract in my hand and I had a lawyer look it over. And, after that process was completed, we basically started the process of onboarding, which was, getting familiar with his team, getting the music to them, creating a track listing and creating new cover art for vinyl. And this whole process has taken very close to a year now. So it's November of 2022, and this started in February of 2022.
It's a business. It takes time,
Oh
and I'm
yeah.
glad that was something when I was listening to the album. It sounds very European type of metal, because the European metal has like this distinct sound, especially like with the power metal genre, that it's different here in the bands from the States. So talking about that, that European sound, like growing up, founding your style, which bands influence you as a musician?
Well, there were American bands without a doubt that influenced me as a musician, but the bands and the musicians that had the greatest effect on me were always from Europe. There were bands in the very, very beginning of when I listened to music that were like US punk rock bands that I liked a lot. But the things that I am really, really attached to, it's Mozart is a huge part of the way I think and the way I compose. Mozart is really looms large in everything that I do. But also, in the rock music world, which is more your question probably, it was bands like Yes, King Crimson, and maybe getting a little bit more into the European power metal scene. A lot of British bands, a lot of British bands. There's something in the British melodic tradition that seeps its way into everything that I hear. And a lot of bands in the Eastern European tradition, the sort of epic tradition, that were like way more important to me than anything that was coming out of America. And I think there's a certain ethos about the European bands where they have a lot of machismo almost, where they're very prideful about the ancestry of music in their own country, which is much longer than the ancestry of music really in America. If you want to talk about the history of European music, you're talking about thousands of years. You talk about the history of music in America, you're talking about maybe 100 or 200 years, of which a lot of it was imported from Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a richer, more broad, more steep musical tradition in Europe that is just all the more to tap into.
No, yeah, I agree. And your singing style, it varies from song to song. Like that's a range that you can more power metal, more different style. There's a lot of psychedelics, like trippy sounds on the album as well. So when you're writing songs in terms of the way you're going to sing, do you try to change the vocal melodies depending of like the style of the song?
It really depends. Like, I like to think that the songs are like individual vignettes or stories. And sometimes what's crucial to that story is a call and response. There's like a lot of times you'll notice if there are scream vocals that the scream vocals articulate something that's maybe more intense or kind of ferocious. It's almost like
Mhm.
an orc voice almost. And then the singing melodic voices are meant to deliver like a really, really pristine, usually uplifting message a lot of the time, or usually the lesson of the story is in that voice. um, and usually that comes to me individually, but I mean it's not an approach I necessarily invented. I guess maybe I'm one of the few who does both voices in the studio. I think a lot of bands have a clean vocalist and a dirty vocalist. My perspective there was that I thought that I could build more coherence by having it be from one voice, and that I could hear it all in my head and execute it, and that's sort of what happened on the record.
Do you prefer doing the clean vocals or like you say the dirty ones?
The dirty vocals are fun because when you get into the studio and you start doing them and you start experimenting with the sounds, you really start getting some gnarly sounding stuff. I mean, there were a couple of outtakes that were just so very ferocious sounding. You can get a really good lion roar if you practice it through a mic with a little bit of gain and a little compression. Um, I would say I liked singing melodically more though, because the melody, when you're singing the melody, you're serving that part of the song. Whereas the screamed vocals, the only reason to really do them is to get across a lyrical point a little bit more intensely. I don't think anyone really listens to the sound of a screamed vocal because they're super pleased with how screamy it sounds. Whereas melodic vocals have the musical capacity to them and the lyrical capacity to them.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I know that these 11 tracks you produced them alongside Kevin Triachian, who's also worked with the Dillinger Escape Plan. How was it working, like being you as a producer? Are you harder on yourself?
Well, Kevin Ontriasian was the guitarist in the Dillinger Escape Plan, and I don't want to give myself too much credit here because just some raw facts here. We used Kevin's studio. Kevin did the mixing. Kevin did the engineering. I'm more of an executive producer. The EQ functions and all of the higher-minded mixiness of the album is by Kevin's design. It was great working with Kevin, and I'm certain that I'm going to work with Kevin again because Kevin was the first producer I ever worked with that I 100% connected with. And when I say I 100% connected with him, I mean there was literally no argument about anything, and there were times where there's even one moment on Intergalactic Demon King where he contributed a synthesizer and he wrote it in, and it was a great idea. Kevin is a very, very gifted musician, but also just at this point, I'm gonna have to say he's got to be one of the better rock producers around, where I know of. The mixes sound to my ear quite good and crisp, and it was a massive learning experience.
Yeah, I love the Dillinger Escape Plan, but I'm terrible at remembering. There's people that know all the band members' names. No, I know Greg Puciato.
Yeah,
because he was the singer, but I can't remember the names of everyone on a band.
Yeah, names are tough. That's why you have to have your name and the name of the band.
Yeah. So everyone knows it's you.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
I want to show I like the logo because when you see this logo, it is really very old school metal. Yeah, the Zeke Sky logo. Who designed the logo?
That one was an artist called Kate Matirko, actually, a long time ago, many years ago. She is like a freelance graphic designer who actually lives in my area.
Yeah, and I like the sword and everything. It's got a really like Manowar, Ingy Malmsteen type of feel to it.
Yeah, it's meant to sort of have that like European conqueror flair.
Yeah, the good thing is you're very humble because Ingy Malmsteen is not.
Well, Yngwie, everyone carries themselves differently, and some people are really powered by the ego in a very specific way. I'd hate to wake up in a world in which Yngwie lost his ego, but also his superpowers. I'd rather him just keep the ego. And
no, the guy is an amazing guitar player and everything. But I got that style from you, and I was wondering like, oh, maybe he was influenced by. And the sword, I don't know. I thought of Manowar because that the image.
Oh, Yngwie, massive influence to me. But I mean, the thing about Yngwie is once you okay, so there's two things. Yngwie put a style of music on guitar that wasn't truly on guitar. I mean, Al Di Meola had done it before him, but once you've experienced European classical music, there's actually nothing really all that interesting that Yngwie provides. He's providing a voice to it on guitar, and he was the first guy to do it with like a lot of authority, and that's an important point. But he's very steeped in that European melodic tradition.
Yeah, no, yeah, and so yeah, the album. I know that the first single that you put out was "Say Your Prayers." Why did you pick that one as the lead single?
Say Your Prayers had qualities to it. I think one of the reasons was it was a good demonstration of both the dirty and the clean vocals. But Say Your Prayers was like a microcosm of the whole record, which was, it had these broad, heavy metal elements to it. but it also had these melodic qualities to it that almost sound like they come more from pop metal sometimes. You know, the chorus of that song is very melodic pop almost sounding. And then there's a long guitar solo. It's, you know, it's like a 30-second guitar solo. So I thought that that gave nice context and was nice preparation for the rest of the album.
Yeah, no, it really, like you said, encompasses like the whole style of the album.
Yeah.
And then you release Intergalactic Demon King and finally Light the Sky, which I thought was a solid single as well. So what is Light the Sky about in themes?
Light the Sky is roughly, it's not completely, but it's roughly a telling of the 300 Spartans' last stand at Thermopylae. And when I say roughly, I mean really roughly, but it's kind of about what happens to decadent and weak civilizations when they forget the things that made them strong in the first place. And that's not really the Spartans per se, but the rallying cry there is part of the important part of that song is the warriors are smirking while they kiss their loves goodbye. And it's kind of this tale of the people, the warrior class in a civilization feeling like this dying in battle is the best thing that could possibly happen to them. And the romance to that and how it contrasts so much with our modern kind of hedonistic decadent civilization where dying over anything just seems like you know, you're missing out on all kinds of fried chicken and sex and all kinds of things for the rest of your life, whereas people who came before us who had more of a militant warrior state ethos would have found great glory in this task. And so that's kind of what's being channeled there.
And what other themes do you explore in the record?
A lot. There is kind of I would say the tempestuousness of travel and exploration is one thing. Love and like cold love and heartbreak are actually sort of on there. You wouldn't expect it, but Say Your Prayers is vaguely in that direction. I explored in Level the Heights. I explored a little bit of the Viking conquests. Let's see what else. On the tip of the tongue is psychedelic kind of stuff. Endlessly Forever is almost like a tribute to Homer's The Odyssey. Lionheart is kind of a mystical song dealing with prophecy and wishing water and kind of how ideas get manifested through bold action. There's a lot. There's really a lot on the album, and I think it was intentional because I just didn't want it to fit into one pigeonhole. I didn't want it to be one thing.
Of course, yeah, there's a lot of variety in this record. Yeah, on the tip of my tongue, yeah, it's there's a Red Hot Chili Pepper song that they put out this year, Tip of My Tongue, but you know what? Yours is so much better.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, yeah. But yeah, the record, you know, it's very interesting and yeah, it's very dynamic, like you were explaining. So I'm going to show the artwork because the artwork really goes hand in hand with the. So here's the artwork, and that's a beefier you right there at the background, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, that's like yeah. I'm guessing you grew up like me, watching some He-Man.
I have seen He-Man. People have been mentioning this a couple of times now. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, no. So this cover, like, what are you trying to convey in this cover? I know that I see like a demon, and there's a lot going on.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, well, I think the main theme here was the album cover was sort of a separate idea, but when you go about trying to start a band or a business or anything like that, you always have naysayers. And those naysayers can really quickly, they can take a toll on you if you aren't careful. I mean, if you just open social media, I mean, it's hard to read comments sometimes. You can take things to heart really easily, but this was kind of like a representation of the lion is kind of yelling at them and telling them.
Oh, let me show it again. Sorry.
Yeah. The lion's kind of yelling at them and telling them to go away. and basically, it's the demons are jealous. The demons are jealous. They're trying to knock me off from. There's a piano too, and I'm supposed to be standing on the piano, but it didn't quite work out so well. And then it all had to be happening in space because it's the Intergalactic Demon King.
Oh yeah,
And yeah,
it's a pretty cool album artwork, and I see that the you know the person who did this, I saw that, I read the name here, David Risa. Really great job on it, because it's really conveys the whole like sound of the record. And
it
so on
does.
your point of saying like you have to have a thick skin, me doing YouTube, I started this last year, and oh my god, sometimes you get nice comments, but you get people that really like go after you, like, and you just have to have like a thick skin, because you know what, you're doing something, you did that record, what the hell have they done? you know
Yeah.
and that's gonna happen. You're never going to please everyone. I've had comments like people saying like, oh, you're a Spanish guy. I'm like, well, I speak two languages. And so it's something that happens, or like, so you just gotta brush them off and pay no mind. But I'm guessing you've gotten great feedback also on the songs that you put out so far.
Oh yeah, it definitely is already picking up some traction, and I knew the record was good when I finished it. And it's not even so much that you take the comments to mind; it's just that you can sort of see like, because when people lash out that way, it's because they feel incompetent themselves a lot of the time. Like most of the
Mm-hmm.
time when people are really going out of their way to lash out, it's because they feel their own ineptitude. So I thought immortalizing that in a piece of art would actually be a really fitting way to make an album cover. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's the same in really any line of work when you're trying to establish and kind of distinguish yourself.
Yeah. But now you set your bar too high. So when you do a follow-up, you're like, oh my God, the artwork, I need to top this.
We will. We'll do it.
Yeah. I know, yeah. With that type of music, the art, like you could always like be doing like different stuff. Like this one, you're in space. But yeah, it's like I know that right now people are not that focused on album covers like they used to be
That's
back
right.
in the day. But album covers to me, like that's like you're selling, like it's a visual representation of what you're going to listen to.
Yeah.
Like if like you look at the album cover and you have a pretty good idea what you're going to listen to, at least for me.
Right.
Maybe I don't know, someone that doesn't listen to metal would get confused, but yeah, that's what
I think it's true. I think it's true.
yeah. So uh what you're putting out the album this Friday. Is it only gonna be digitally, or still gonna be physical copies?
No, so they're gonna do there's a whole vinyl pre-sale all over the world. And yeah, so there's vinyl is what they push the most, but there's also everything else. There will be Spotify, there will be YouTube, it will be everywhere.
It will be intergalactic.
It will be intergalactic. That's right.
Yeah. See, what are you looking at? You're like looking, I'm like,
Yeah, no, my computer. I was seeing if I could get you on my computer screen, but I can't.
oh, what, it took me out?
Yeah, no. You're on my phone right now. I was seeing if I could get you up
Ah,
onto the screen. It might be a
nice.
little
Yeah, because you're looking up, I'm like, are you looking at the intergalactic demon?
easier.
it's, it's feeding you ideas. So see, sometimes in these interviews, I like to ask, like, we did a video like months ago about being on a deserted island and taking free records with you that would mean a lot to you, like you would never get tired of listening to. So if you were stranded on a island that has a record player or whatever, which free records would you take with you and why?
Three records. Well, one of them would be Dark Side of the Moon.
Oh yeah.
Or the other one would probably be Close to the Edge. It's the Yes album. And the third would be probably Van Halen 1. Probably Van
Yeah,
Halen
those
1.
are all solid, great choices. And you know
Yeah.
what? All those albums that you mentioned kind of go hand in hand with the style that you play.
Yes,
because you have the
I hope so.
psychedelics of Pink Floyd, you have the progressiveness of Yes, and you have the guitar shredding of Van Halen.
Yes, yeah, I guess
So
that was maybe perfect choices.
that would be like a great way to like, so someone that doesn't know Zeke Sky, like, hey, that's what Zeke Sky
It would be a perfect introduction.
sounds like. Yeah, so people, oh, okay, that sounds like that. So yeah, no, it's a very fun record, and great guitar playing. And besides the guitar, you play piano. What other instruments do you play?
Piano, bass. I can get stuff out of other instruments, but I focus mainly on guitar and piano.
Nice. When you write the skeletons of the song, do you write it on piano first or guitar?
It actually on this record it was both. There were guitar skeletons and there were piano skeletons.
Nice. So, anything you would like to say to the people who are watching this video, what to expect from Six Sky in the future?
Well, right now we're going to release this record. I'm sure there's going to be a playing phase after this, hopefully in Europe at some point very soon, but I'm not going to force that. I have been writing more music. There's just a ton of music now that's just going to need to come out some point in the next couple of years. So if you like this record, there is more where that came from.
Nice. Yeah. So people, go and pre-order the album. I'll put the link in the description so everyone can go and pre-order it and or stream it, whatever you like. It's out this Friday. So I would recommend this to anyone who loves power metal with a lot of like guitar shredding and that European metal sound. If you like that, you will dig this. And support new artists. I know, it's very important to support new artists and get new music out there. So Zeke, I want to thank you for taking some time of your afternoon to talk with me about the album and music and other stuff. So uh again, people, Zeke Sky this Friday. So until next time, people, this is Hector, the Shield on the Couch, and I'll see you all right here on the couch. Thank you and good night.